All right, so let's talk a little bit about inventory and the differences in inventory as somewhat of a refresher. So if you go to the home screen, in the top right-hand corner, there's going to be this inventory is low, or it'll just say inventory and it'll be a gray box instead of a red background. If you click on view inventory, that's going to show you what you currently have available to you. So if you get down to 0, that won't necessarily show you everything that you used to have, but it will show you what you currently have available. Now, let me point out, because I think sometimes it can be confusing. I know other platforms out there, treat inventory a little bit differently than PAR iConnect does. So iAdmins essentially allow you to assign an assessment and give the assessment through PAR iConnect. So if you wanted to send an email to a teacher, for example, or to a parent, that's going to deduct 1 iAdmin use. If you wanted to have the person actually take the assessment on the tablet or the laptop that you have, you can also do that. That also deducts an iAdmin use. And then each time that you go to score and generate a report, it's going to deduct a report usage. And in many cases, we have different options. So as a probably relevant example, we have the brief to parent teacher. So you can see I've got 125 iAdmins. That means I can administer 125 assessments through PAR iConnect, either by email or on screen. And then I have 158 interpretive reports available to me. In some cases, there are also going to be score reports that are available. And I just want to point out, you really never need to use both a score and an interpretive report. The score report is just going to have profiles. It's going to do the tables and conversions for you, but typically will not include any interpretive or narrative text. The interpretive report is going to include all of the information that's in the score report, plus it's going to include interpretive narrative text. So you sort of never need to use both on the same person. You just get more information from the interpretive report. So you can see your inventory listed here. And so if you needed to order more, this is a great way to see that. One other thing I do want to point out, there are 2 different ways that you can manage inventory within PAR iConnect. The default and the simpler method is called centralized. And essentially what that means is that when your account has inventory added to it, anybody that you've invited to join the account will have access to that inventory. So it's much like having, say you have an unlocked file cabinet in one of your offices, and anybody who has access to that office can go in and grab whatever assessments they need. That's what the centralized inventory method essentially is like. The other method is called distributed, and that's really for if you have the need to have greater control over how many of each assessment particular clinicians are using. So let's say you purchase 200 assessments and you need to have greater control and say that, Mr. So-and-so psychologist should only have 20 assessments that they can use. The distributed inventory is going to allow you to specifically say, this person gets this many, this person gets that many, and then anything that you haven't distributed just sort of hangs out in your account bucket until you assign it out to folks. I do want to point out that includes you as the account supervisor. So if you purchase inventory and you're using the distributed inventory method, that inventory will just stay in your account bucket until you assign it to yourself or to others. It is a lot more work for the account supervisor, and so we only really recommend that you use that distributed method if you really just have a really good need, a big need to sort of have greater control. Otherwise, I would just use the centralized method. It's much, much simpler to use. Also, it is worth pointing out that if you're using one of those 2 methods now and you don't like it for some reason, maybe you didn't realize that distributed was that much work and it's not really necessary, we can switch that over to centralized or vice versa for you. Just contact our customer support team and we can walk you through that. All right, the other thing I want to talk about when it comes to inventory is if I click on account management again, we've made some updates to this tab that's called inventory report. And if you come in here and view this, this is going to show you by assessment what you have currently. So very similar to what we were looking at on the home screen when we clicked on view inventory. It's also going to show you total usage to date, and then it's going to show you usage in the current month to date. And then notice a little tooltip here. If I hover, it says usage includes pending iAdmins. So, if you're wondering where something went, be sure to check that there. So this will show you exactly how much of each thing that you've used in life to date, as well as during the current month. And and what you have currently available. So this, we're going to continue to update this screen, and we're going to add new features to let you slice by clinician, for example, and that should be coming out pretty soon. But I did want to point out that we've made some updates to this screen, and this is a great resource if you need to take a look.